Alright, so there's a lot I really have to say, and I'm probably going to put it behind some sort of melodramatic video of me doing like pull-ups in the rain or something, but honestly I think that fits, because there's some things in life I've come to realize are a lot more important than people really make it seem. And one of the most obvious things, even though it's something really that I think a lot of people know instinctively, is the value of just doing what you want. And that's not to say that like you shouldn't do things at the detriment of other people, right? You shouldn't make people feel worse for no reason. You shouldn't cause undue harm to someone else just because you want something. You have to balance those, but there's something really important there about knowing what you want and not being afraid to go after it, right? And I know for me, a lot, like in my life, that's something I've struggled with a lot, is like mustering the courage, getting everything ready to go, and then going, because a lot of people kind of stop in a lot of places before that. Sometimes just stop at the very start. You don't even like cross the start line, really. There have been projects I've seen people. I know a friend who wanted to start working out, and every single time I was like, hey, come on, I'll take you, I'll show you how it goes, you'll have fun. And he just kept pushing it off, next week, then next week, then next week, until like eventually a year went by, nothing happened. Like, you can't really claim that you're still trying to make progress then, right? Is that really something you care about going after? Because if it is, like, it's not been proven. Additionally, there's something to be said, like, if you have a goal, and you have the fire to go after it, and you're able to hold yourself accountable and stay consistent and stay like doing what you need to do, which is a whole other conversation, I understand. But if you really have a goal and like you have all that spirit to go for it, don't let anything stop you. Like don't let the small challenges, the small hills be the thing that stops you from conquering the top of the mountain. That's something that also is really hard to learn. Like, there are setbacks, there are failures, a lot of things that will hold you down, will make you question if what you're trying to do is really worth it. And I think for a lot of people, they come to something, they stop, and they think, oh, it wasn't worth it. Or, they put it off for so long that it ends up never happening. But I want to disagree with that. Just in so many things we make seem way harder than they are. And that's not to speak like badly for anyone who is going through really hard stuff. Obviously there's a difference, but a lot of things, like I remember I was trying to learn pen spinning a few summers ago. I picked up like 3 tricks, was going strong at it, and then obviously as most like starting habits go to die, I stopped going after it, stopped being consistent, and that's where the interest dies, right? You don't get anything reinforcing what you're trying to do. So I think there's something to be said for finding ways to motivate yourself, finding a purpose to what you're doing, whether it's in what you need to happen or what you want to happen. And then you have to justify that to yourself. Why do I want this to happen? Is it something that'll fulfill my life? Is it something that I'll be able to show others? That's a valid motivation. Is it something I'm doing just for fun? And that's also fine, but is it a constructive thing? And then some things are not, There's a lot of stuff where, especially now, we are consuming more than we put out. And while, again, not a bad thing, if you take that to its extremes, you're never going to push yourself. You're never going to build on the person you're supposed to become. You're going to... It's like filling up a glass of water. Anytime you build on yourself, you work towards a goal, something creative, something that builds up, you fill that glass a little bit. Anytime you're consuming something, a little bit of water evaporates, and that's a really, really slow process, right? Like you start evaporating just a tiny bit day by day. For most people, that cup should continue to fill. There's nothing that would stop them, really, from being more creative than consuming. But nowadays, that's not really the case anymore. I think it's completely valid to be stuck in a cycle of just taking in and not putting back out, not producing, creating, being a person who can manifest themselves to the world and not be afraid of the judgment. But that leads to people who can't really face the world, and that is not how you want to live your life. I would say nobody on earth wants to have it so they can't do anything. That's just not a way of life. So for everyone who's struggling to make things happen, I can't give you the magic answers. If you want that, you're gonna have to find it yourself. It's the tough thing of life, you know. We want answers to be given to us, or answers to be deposited nicely at our doorstep. But really we gotta go down to the post office and like knock on their door when it's a holiday evening, and then they're really confused because they get back like 3 days later to a broken window. Anyways, no, what we gotta do is seek out our own truths, and that's a difficult goal. You know, people lose track, they get off track, or they just never find anything. But you'll never know any of those if you don't try at all, you know? So I'm losing track of stuff a little bit, but the main thing here is you have to try. Like, the consequences might seem daunting, they might seem insurmountable, but you don't know what could be lying on the other side. The grass might be greener, it might not, but you'll never know what could be unless you take the steps to make it so. That was super corny.